Good evening or good afternoon, I should say, everybody. Here we are, Dante's Harmony Podcast, and I am excited today for our guest on today. For you all that are just joining us on Facebook, on YouTube, we are live on YouTube. If you want to stream us live from YouTube, just go to my YouTube page, Dante Harmon. Just search Dante Harmon, and you will find us there. We are also live here on Facebook. And we are going to be talking to the Campbell Brothers on today. They have a new album that's out, and I'm excited to dive into some great conversation with them and talk about it. But before we bring them up, I need everybody to like and share this post. This is going to be some monumental stuff that we're going to talk about on today, and you don't want to miss it. So for those of you that are watching via Facebook, make sure you post your comments in the section. I will definitely be highlighting some of the comments and some of those things that are happening. And if you have questions as we more into the broadcast, as we go more into the interview, if you have any questions, let us know where you're from and post your questions so I can make sure you get some airtime and we post it on this feed, and we will try to address all questions. All right. So listen, without further ado, let me just go through this introduction because there's some certain folks or certain artists that really don't need an introduction, and the Campbell Brothers are it. So for over 3 decades, the Campbell Brothers have brought the soul-stirring sound of sacred steel to diverse audiences, deeply rooted in the Pentecostal House of God tradition. With their latest album, Innova, released August 2nd via Ropeadope Records, the Campbell Brothers had delivered their most heartfelt work yet. Inspired by faith, resilience through tragedy, this 9-track album was their first album since 2013, and it marks a poignant tribute to their late brother, Derek Campbell, who passed in 2020. Innova is a powerful blend of tradition, reinvention, showcasing the Campbell brothers' enduring spirit and commitment to the musical heritage. Listen, if you all have not purchased the album, if you haven't started streaming the album, you gotta go do it today. Listen, I'm here for it and they're here for it. Without further ado, can we just bring them all up to the stage? Let me start from youngest to oldest, and hopefully I get this right. Carl, how you doing, man? Unmute yourself. Unmute yourself.
That would do it.
That would do it, man.
That would
how
do
you
it.
Doing?
Big bro, good to be here. Good to be here, man. Thank you for having us on, and I'm excited to have this conversation today, man. It's gonna be fun.
It's gonna be amazing, man. And listen, next up, Phil Campbell. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good, man.
Good.
Great seeing you again, Dante.
Man, likewise. It's always great seeing you, and I'm looking forward to really having this interview and conversation with you guys. And last but not least, Chuck Campbell. How you doing, man?
Doing great. Glad to be here, and I'm excited about this podcast.
I am too, man. And you know, with so much that's happening in our world today, so much going on in our world today, to reinvent yourselves. And man, this is the first album since 2013. Like, this is huge. To come into 2024 the way you guys have, and to come out just swinging with the Nova. It is just, I think I text you guys, and I know Phil, when you text me and told me the album is out, we went back and forth, you and I talked, and then of course I would send a couple of texts to Chuck, and I was just blown away. So let's first start. How did Innova, or what is Innova all about?
Well, Innova really comes from the Latin Innova, right? That is a Latin word. And actually, it's the Latin root of innovate, right? But for us, it also means, in biblical terms, It means a renewal, resurrection, a revival, right? And that was something that we felt we needed coming out of the tragedy of the loss of our brother, Derek. In addition to coming out of COVID, right, and
Right.
all the isolation and everything that everyone went through, not being able to be out and about, not being able to interact, not being able to fellowship with our brothers and sisters, even family, right?
Right.
Were separated throughout that whole period, and so the idea was to emerge from that whole, that whole shutdown period and that whole malaise that had been over literally the world, and actually come forward and say, hey, let's come back, let's share, and this music, and also the spirit of it and what it's about.
Right. And man, can you not feel it when you hear the music? It is it's prevalent. And keeping along the same thing, I know Derek's passing was very influential in this album. And in what ways did Innova really speak to that regards?
Well, I'll jump back in again.
Yeah.
So part of it was, Chuck and I, we had to have some conversation, and with Carl and all too, and our families,
Hmm.
about should we even continue as the Campbell Brothers, right? With their passing, that was a real question. Did we even want to go forward? Would it be disrespectful to go forward,
Right.
right, as the Campbell
Right.
Brothers? And because we never want to forget him, right, and all those
Right.
things. So those were existential questions that we really had to grapple with. Ultimately, we came to the conclusion that Derek would not want us to stop,
Yeah.
that he would want us to continue forward. And that was the spirit that he always brought to our group, that can do, move forward, make things happen, kind of a vibe to us. And so,
Hmm.
we made the choice, hey, let's continue to move forward. We slowly started doing some shows. It was, you can imagine, it was tough to be on stage, not being able to look to my right and see him, missing his sound, missing what he brought to us on the stage. That was quite an adjustment. But
Yeah.
I have to give credit to the band, and in particular Chuck, for stepping up and filling those voids, right? Because whereas before he was able to share those solos, now he had to bear the whole load of being the steel instrument, in a sacred steel group, and
Right.
he has done that, and so that has enabled us to go forward.
And that is a really big mantle to carry. And Chuck, I'm sure that once you started working on this album, the memories of doing that, and even in shows, having to play shows, and I know a lot of the songs, and I know a lot of the parts. How was that moving forward for you?
Very difficult, and
Yeah.
believe it or not, there's still some adjustments being made. So, but I thank God for Phil and Carlton.
Yeah.
They jumped in and tried to help, and definitely pointed out different things of what was missing and what I could possibly do to fill in. But make no mistake about it, Derek did a lot more than I appreciated while he was doing it. And
Wow.
once it was missing, it was very he did a lot more than what I gave him credit for.
Yeah.
While he was doing it. And but fortunately too, this gives room for Phil to show more of his versatility, and also the rest of the band, what they can do. And so my job now has been to try to be more controlled and more produced by the band than just thinking about just going full bore myself. And that's
Absolutely.
so it's a learning process.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm sure, man. Quiet as kept before, as when that happened with Derek. none of this that I'm doing actually would not have been. I was inspired to have a conversation. And I don't know if I've even shared this before, but literally it was a week after Derek's passing, and Robert called me, and we were just on the phone. Robert Randolph. We were talking, and as we were talking and having a conversation, I said, Rob, because we really went for about 2 hours talking, just talking about Derek, talking about you guys, and just the legacy that you guys have, and what you mean to us, and the things that you all have already done to put us where we are, So to have that conversation, I said, Rob, hey man, let's go live on Facebook, and let's just have this conversation in front of the world. Like let's just talk like we talking now. Literally,
Yeah.
that's what we did. And and it was a Sunday evening, and it was just that. He had his guitar, I'm sitting by mine, and we went for about an hour and a half. Once we got the technical stuff, because Rob couldn't connect Facebook from his phone for some odd
Thank
reason.
God he's as great a musician as he is.
Man, technology. We gonna pray for him. We gonna send Carl up there to him. But we went for about an hour and a half, and nonstop. We just talked and shared about Derek's legacy and why he was so instrumental and important. What I didn't realize is how many people were really interested to hear what me and Rob were saying. I just thought, maybe some of the younger guys could, benefit from what we had to share. Well, the first call I got was from Calvin Cook, and he's oh, Dante, man, I'm so proud of you, man. That was so beautiful, and this and that and the other. I said, oh man, I didn't know what was happening. Mm-hmm. So I started getting all kind of inboxes, and it was just bananas. But all this was birthed out of my tribute, really, to Derek, my tribute to honoring his legacy. And God knows, I wanted to do something like this, but I didn't know how it would get started. And it's just amazing. How people influence us, and not only how they influence us, but how we take that mantle and carry it forward. So Carl, I'm gonna now circle back with you too, Phil. But Carlton, you're the next generation, and hey man, you're doing it now. And I know your uncle was a great influence on you, especially as a drummer. Talk about that, man.
Yeah, man. I mean, I think the guy had 2 Hall of Fame careers as a musician, as a drummer and as a steel player. And I think his steel playing eclipsed his drumming so much, but that was my earliest memories. My earliest memories were the 3 of them playing, even though it was sparse. By the time I'm able to remember all the services in full, he's now playing more steel than he is drums. But when that happened, man, it was like Christmas every service. And it's like those tapes, man, those are some of like the best tapes ever of just them playing. And the thing that was crazy is like people don't believe they don't rehearse, right? So whatever jam that they would come up with in the services would be inspired by the Lord. Okay, that's cool. But the continuity and the connection they had, the 3 of them when they were playing, was amazing. And what made it so cool in regards to, Unc, as far as drums, was that he was heavy into like fusion. So what helped him, he helped me a lot because, hey man, House of God services, you can't play a lot of the stuff that we were hearing from Billy Cobham and Dave Weckl and Vinny Colaiuta and all of that. So he's like, hey man, if you want to play that, you gotta put it either in the offering or a choir song. Other than that, you're gonna get in trouble. So, but seeing him sneak it in, I'm like, man, you can sneak that in there. Why can't I? So just trying to figure that out and have the conversations, and all those assemblies coming down with him to Georgia, and all those various Atlas trips, because we didn't have Google or MapQuest back then.
Right.
And trying to find Uvalde and Cordele and Hazelhurst. And
Come on, name them.
And, man, listen, I can name them. I can name them. Lions and all.
Townsend.
Bro, Townsend, Pembroke.
Man,
Come
how
on.
y'all gonna leave out Willa Coochie?
I'm about to
Come on.
Willa Waycross.
Shout out to Troy Jackson.
Like, man, all those assemblies and him just giving me an opportunity just to grow as a musician. And
Yeah.
the mistakes were allowed to be made, and that's part of the learning and the growth, even with my dad and Uncle Chuck as well.
Yeah.
But just speaking of Uncle Derek's legacy, man, it's just the dude attacked it with such ferocity, and it was just like every time, whether it was drums or steel, you were getting that same energy and presence from that man. So yeah, it is it's definitely a gaping hole, you know, to not have his sonics or his presence around us musically, or even just as far as a family connection. But you know, by and by, by and by.
Man. And listen, and I go back to Innova, to what this really is to me. It's a refreshing. It's like being reborn, being rejuvenated, right? All these things. It's the album is a revival within itself. From the sound to just how things were approached. So I want to go deeper into the album, and when you guys started to work on it, what was to me, I'm hearing the sound, and I'm listening to a production. I'm listening to the mix. I'm listening to a vintage but yet newness in this album. So Phil, what was the, I understand the whole emphasis behind it, but man, there was a lot of work done in for this album. What led up to that, and how did you approach that going in?
Yeah, so I started writing a lot of the songs during COVID, right? When we were shut down.
Right.
A lot of the songs were actually written for the two steels, right? And guitar.
Wow.
So there's parts, Derek, Chuck, myself. And with his passing, that was a shock to the system. Because I'd actually shared some of the demos with Chuck and Derek. With Chuck and Derek, and said, "Hey guys, what do you think about this?" And they're like, "Yeah, man, hey man, that's nice. We hear it." They heard the parts, they heard the things, and they're like, "Yeah, we think we can work with that." But and then Derek passed, and then the question was, how are we going to go forward?
Right.
We made the conscious decision though that this would be a studio album. That was one of the major decisions. All before our albums had been recorded with the idea of capturing a live performance kind of a vibe to it,
right?
And where everybody plays in the studio at once. This time we actually said, no, we're going to do a full-on production where we actually build the record out, and that whatever musical ideas that would contribute to the music, we were going to include them. Whereas before we would take parts out, but because we're like, well, we don't know if we're going to play that live, or who's going to carry that part, or who's going to do that. In this production, we said, no, it's just going to be a produced album. And then we would decide afterward, what parts would be recorded live. So that's kind of how the approach that we took.
Wow.
And that's what started building out the sound the way you hear it now, as it's produced.
And from what I understand and what I gathered, that Carlton played a big role in the production of the technology, I should say, or the mixing aspect of this particular album.
Yeah, this album represents the integration of two schools, right? One of the new technology and the new approaches, with digital audio workstations and plugins and all those different things that come to it. And then it was the old school that really was brought on, that Chuck and I were mentored in by Charles Flannery, right, out of Detroit.
Wow.
And he taught us these engineering techniques from his work that he had done when he was recording artists in Detroit, Michigan. So he brought that.
We're talking about the Charles Flannery from BMF Charles Flannery.
Yes, that person.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Deacon Charles Flannery is who we're talking about.
Yes. Yes.
Because,
Yes.
and just as an interesting aside about all of that,
Yeah.
that family is a true house of God family, right? With
Yeah, they are.
Charles's uncles, Charles's cousins, all of them were in both the Jewel and the Keith Dominion. They raised their families and in the Keith Dominion. Charles Flannery actually came up and played for fundraisers for our church, the church that we bought on Goodman Street.
Yeah.
They actually helped us to purchase that building because he and Calvin were traveling from Detroit, and that's how the relationship first began. We just admired them as musicians, but we didn't know
Wow.
that Charles was really the recording aficionado that he was.
So
And
he was
then
an
when
engineer.
Chuck and I started recording, yeah, that's when he started saying he saw what we were doing. He said, "Hey, man, let me show you all a few things."
Wow.
And it's just amazing that now we're talking early 80s and through the 80s that he's sharing all this information. And
Right.
the amazing part is all that stuff that he was teaching us regarding equipment, ribbon mics, dynamics, arranging, production, stacking, ear candy, you name it, all these concepts still relevant to this day.
Wow.
And that's the
Oh,
amazing thing of the blessing that he was in our life.
and that was through Charles Flannery. So he's talking. We're talking the days of the chosen few. you know. so
Woo!
so,
Oh
so
my gosh.
let me give us a little background. So before the world knew the Campbell Brothers as the Campbell Brothers. They were the chosen few back in the 80s, and my father, being an intricate member and a very celebrated member, if you will. Chuck and Phil could probably tell you better, but it was such a interesting time because, as you said, Phil, the a lot of the recording nuances, we didn't know, and to have somebody like Charles Flannery, telling and showing you guys what to do, in my mind, okay, this is how the chosen few really got started, but the
Yeah.
chosen few was really, go ahead.
No, it was just that. Well, first of all, Charles Flannery
Hmm.
had a vision that the House of God Church had just as big or just as much talent as any other church, in particular the
That's
Church of
right.
God in Christ, who actually nationalized their artist program and brought forth all the artists that you saw. But
Right.
the House of God could do the same thing. And so, Charles Flannery recorded vinyl recordings in the 60s with Calvin
Wow.
Cook. Yeah. So he recorded two singles with Calvin Cook in the 60s, and then he continued that whole journey. The man literally built studios in his living room. Now, I don't know how he got away with that. I can't tell you.
Wow.
But the point is, that's how dedicated he was to the vision of saying the House of God Church should be recording and have recording artists and putting forth artists just like any other of the other churches out there. So I
That's
think that's
dope.
what drove him.
Hmm.
And when he saw some young guys actually coming along, taking up that mantle and investing, because we were buying equipment. Chuck and I were buying equipment. Anytime we got $300 or $400 or $500 together, hey, we were buying equipment,
Right.
building out our studio.
Right.
But Charles would actually come up from Detroit and travel with us to New York City or other places to see equipment, and then convince our father, Bishop Campbell, to invest and buy the stuff that we wanted. So his voice was very important. Then he was bringing us some of the equipment that he had and putting it in our studios. Like I said, the man was incredible in the impact that he had for us, and we just we'll never forget. Never.
Wow.
I'd like to add to that the you had so many musicians that were on the cusp or that were getting out in
Hmm.
their own towns, and of course Ed and his brothers, your uncles,
Hmm.
they were getting out in Chicago. You had Glenn Lee, who was actually one of the few of us that was trained. He actually went to school for music.
Right.
Then you had people like Daryl Brundage. You had Francine. You had
Sammy.
Rick Fowler.
Yeah.
Sammy. Yeah.
Yeah, you had all these people, and you had I'm missing some names.
Right.
What it is, they taught us about having rhythm parts, having the bass lines that don't interfere, that lock in with the bass drums. They taught us how to play where you don't step on each other, things of that nature. And the thing about it is I think this was a great attempt that that Phil and Carlton put it together.
Absolutely.
That we actually was able to implement a lot of the things that we had been taught. And the one thing that Derek was a master of, and we have different musicians like Calvin, and one of the things that is not recognized is how technical Ted Beard is. Bishop Beard, that whole family, they've been in the recording for a long time. They did records back in the day too.
Wow.
And they're still doing records.
Yes, they are.
So you got all these people that put into us, and I think we have tried to bring forth that knowledge and manifest it in our albums. And I think we did it. I think I give Phil and Carlton a lot of credit for making that happen.
Yeah. Well, Quiet as Kept, they really did. The production on this album, and I even talk about the Chosen Few, the songs. We're gonna start playing just little samples of the album. And now that we're talking about this, and since we want to merge Chosen Few, and we start talking about the Chosen Few, one of my favorite songs from the Chosen Few was "Love Like Him." And we would be at the Sacred Steel Summit, and Phil and Carlton, hey man, we got something for you, man. I said, what's up? Yeah, you got somewhere we can go listen to this track. Let's do it. So we getting I rented a sidekick. So we
that little clown car, man. Man, I felt like Reggie White.
Listen, man. We got a center and a linebacker trying to squeeze into the sidekick, and we go in, man, and I listen to the track, and I'm just like, wow. So Carlton, can we play just about maybe 15-30 seconds of that?
Yeah, we're gonna give him a little taste.
Give him a little taste, man.
All right, here we go, folks. Here we go. That ain't it, Saints.
But that was a nice intro though.
Wasn't that a nice intro? I mean, man, that was beautiful. For some reason, there we go.
Yes, sir.
Everybody's been done wrong.
All right, that's good. That's good. We're gonna give it all to him. But listen, that is one of my favorite tracks on the on that particular album. Even back from the Chosen Few. One of the things that I resonate with that song is the message, right? The musicianship, everything about the song, the production of the song was just so on key. but the lyrics, we Phil and I, we were joking, like, yeah, we needed to hear that then, but it's more relevant even now with all of the hate that is going on in our society.
Man.
You want to talk
And,
to it, Carlton, and then go ahead.
no, go
Oh,
ahead.
I would say go Dad as the songwriter, and then I'll come around as far as like how he wanted to pull it forward. Go ahead,
Sorry about that. So I think the issue really today, why the relevance of the song is that there are so many people claiming Christianity, but are not living the true values and teachings of Christ. And I think that's the real problem we're having today. We're having it on two levels. One, you're essentially putting forward false teachings, as far as what Jesus' actual true messages were, and then you're disillusioning people who are non-believers because everybody comes off as hypocrites by not living up to what Jesus is doing. So it's one thing, again, to love your neighbor, which of course you should do. It's even easier to love your friends, but Jesus taught to love your enemies. That's when you're really living out the true creed and also purpose of Christianity, to show the difference between us and how the so-called world does things. And so that's why that's what those lyrics meant when I wrote them. But again, to think that 38 years later, they're more relevant than they probably were even back when that was recorded. That's mind-boggling.
It is, and it says so much about what we've succumbed to, as a society and as a nation. So wow, Carlton, you wanted to add to that?
No, so again, the song being 38 years old, and yes, the world doesn't know Love Like Him, but those from HOG, that song is cemented. So it was a thing of trying to understand how can we honor what the chosen few did with that, but yet pull it forward so that it can be a Campbell Brothers song. So respect both, but allow them to be separate entities.
Right.
And I think that was the approach. So on the original, there's keyboards. So there's keyboards and there's samplers on the original. But on this record, obviously, because we're Campbell Brothers, hey, it's guitars. So certain patches, certain patch that Dad uses for one of the patches, it's a dope combination of, it's a guitar trying to be a Rhodes, but yet it's still, you can still hear the fidelity of a guitar.
The guitar. Yeah.
So that was very intentional, so that you can still have that texture and that layer be there, but yet it still can point back to this can be played live for us as Campbell Brothers without needing a keyboard player to be there. And again, we're not opposed to having guys sit in, but at the same time too, the integrity of what Campbell Brothers points to is a strong rhythm section and a blazing steel up top. So we had to find a way to mirror that too. And it seems like folks who knew the original are accepting this new rebirth,
absolutely,
of Love Like Him. So
absolutely.
So yeah.
I think for me, the original, this really expelled more of what the original was and still is, but the production on it, oh my goodness, it was amazing. And
thank you.
And listen,
yeah,
go ahead.
but I
ahead,
think
Phil.
Chuck, blazing on the top.
Come on,
that
talk about it.
That we really wanted to have happen. And again, when he played his solos on that original track, those were things that he was, working through. And, and again, we were going for this so-called contemporary sound. So he was, trying to play lines along that as opposed to playing steel. This time, we told him, hey man, you got to bring it, just like all the grit and everything that you got. That's what we wanted to hear on this. And Chuck really blazed it. And of course, the funny thing is when you're dropping the track, Carl and I looking at each other and we shaking our heads like, yeah, that's it. But when we listened to the playback, hey man, this dude was hitting some stuff. So it was just great, just bringing that mix forward and putting that down, man. Really appreciated that.
And he really did. And I'm gonna circle back to Chuck. When I first heard the album, one of the things that I loved about the album, and we can talk about this from a technical sense, production sense, but it was not steel saturated. Right, it was not over steel. It was not over steel kill, if you will. It was tastefully done. You didn't hear the steel in it. I mean, there were certain songs that yes, it did have a very tasteful steel intro, but it just everything flowed. You got a full production of what a song should be. And we talk about that in a second. But I want to circle back to what you said, Phil, about what Chuck did, even in that song and the solo that he played and the musicianship that he brought to it. One of the things, Chuck, that I love about this whole album is that we're getting the 1980s Chuck. We getting the 1990s Chuck. We getting the Chuck we getting the Chuck that went away for a minute and came back with a vengeance. We got the country, country picking Chuck. We got the Chuck of all those different eras, and we got the sound, and it was authentic, Chuck. It was you, right? But you gave us that taste on every song, so we didn't get like a oversaturation of even the country picking. You gave us the single string stuff, and it was tastefully done. Can you tell us like where Phil will talk about it. Where were you? What was your approach as you were doing each song?
Is this for Phil or me?
This for you, Chuck.
First of all, I'm very offended.
Why are you offended, man?
Because evidently I've been playing too much for a lot of people's taste.
Why you say that?
Words like oversaturated.
So you know what I mean when I say that. When I say
I've always had a problem, probably overplaying or playing too much at the wrong time.
No. So let me rephrase.
No, don't.
I'm talking the album from a album standpoint. From a album, not you in church.
Well,
you're from an album standpoint.
That ends up overflowing too when you go into the album, when you go into the studio. Okay. Sometimes you go in there with a church attitude or with an attitude of playing, but
yeah.
Like I say, I kind of gave over and said to myself, for this album, whatever Phil and Carlton asked me to do, I'm going to try to play the parts and come in almost like I'm a studio musician. And because when you play for other people, they tell you what to play or they just want a sample. And that's good enough. And I thought, that was another area where Derek helped out a lot because he always played so melodic. His melodies was just to die for a lot of times. Right. And he would come up with stuff that nobody else would think of. So I gave over to Carlton and Phil for that because they knew better how to achieve that. So that's the thing. And so I'm saying that beyond that, I think they did an excellent job of making sure that the album wasn't, and by the way, when I named all those people that I was talking about that were players or that influenced us, they all had the same critiques. I'm not going to call it criticisms. It was just critiques of how I could be a better player from that standpoint.
Well, so, can I jump in here?
Please go ahead.
No, go ahead. So, and just to give this bow more of a point arrow, right, to like hit the target. It was more so, hey, Uncle Chuck, I think you've forgotten more stuff that you've played than what people are trying to play. And so, one, by being a fan of him as a musician first, that was okay. Hey, we have this song. What would Chuck Campbell do? And it was literally like the fun part was being able to pull, like you said, Dante, from all these varying eras of
Yes.
Chuck Campbell. So the effects version of Chuck Campbell, we have that on the album. Hey, the Chuck that's ripping because it's a church drive and he's pretty much Randy Moss and he's just running a straight route and you just throwing it up to him, let him go get it. You have that.
Yep.
The melodic, tasteful texture Ebo work, you had that throughout various songs in the album because he had all these. He's had these various careers as a player,
Right.
and it was a lot of records that we were doing in our past as the Campbell Brothers were really, we were trying to showcase that, but at the same point, as Dad mentioned earlier, we haven't taken the time to literally say, hold on, let's work each song as its own entity. And what can we get the best out of this song itself? Opposed to, let's play this song like we're in a concert. And that allowed everyone. So from, Dad being, and I'm one of, I'll say, if not the GOAT for rhythm guitar playing, right? But hey, the man can play lead too. So you're going to play this rhythm guitar part, but you're going to fill in some of these spots too. That will allow us to have an ear break from it being steel. And I think that contrast helps a lot throughout the whole record to where you're hearing both these guys play lead and you're hearing them both play rhythm too. And that's what is helping us have this great bed that I think is what's helping the album have this feel, right? That we haven't really had established as far as a sacred steel record.
Right.
As far as for Campbell Brothers. So when Dante says, hey, we're getting a break from steel being oversaturated, well, think about all the sacred steel records. It was steel. And then you might hear a little guitar backing it, or you'll feel the bass, but you can't hear what the bass player is doing. This record, the intentionality was we're going to support the steel like any other band in the world would do. If Chuck's our Slash, then hey, we have to be the rhythm section to support Slash taking a solo, set it up. And all the records had those same kind of, blueprints. So that was the aim. And I hope that is received and understood. Again, this is not a sacred steel record. That was not the point. This is a record. And I think that's something that I think I'm going to try to do my best and hope we do our best to explain, like, we're not leaving sacred steel. We're just showing that it can evolve because these players have evolved in sacred steel.
Well, I like what you just said. And I think that goes without saying. And that sums it up with what I was saying, because it was really a huge compliment to Chuck and to the album that it was done like with perfection. It was done very tastefully. It was done like with excellence. And that's really what captivated me, is the way it was done. Chana Campbell, she put on here, she says, yes, Love Like Him will always be my favorite. Dante, you almost beat them to re-recording this classic. I'm gonna still do it, Chana. I'm still gonna do it. I'm still gonna do it. But it's one of those hidden gems that, when you listen to the song, you listen to the essence of it and how it went about going through the process of production. This album really is a blueprint. It's a blueprint. It's a staple for I would even dare say for every sacred steel player that's out there, you ought to listen to this album and listen to it again. Listen to it a third time, just from the production standpoint, just from what you hear, the sounds, the melodies, the arrangements, just how everything was just laid out. This, to me, you guys, it is Innova. It is. Even in a technical, I know, Phil, you wrote a lot of the songs, most of the songs. Carlton, you did a lot of the production and mixing and so on and so forth. So with all of these things that are being done, there had to be moments where you were thinking, okay, is this is this right? Is this, is this too much, or is this this, and is that this? Yeah. You want to
Always.
talk about that,
That
Phil?
question always persists. And, I think, we had disagreements. You're going to have all those things. Chuck ended up being the tiebreaker, right? On our call. And just say, hey, man. But again, I think the real point here was that it was still collaboration. It was all said and through. Because even with the production decisions that Carlton and I were making, it was still in consultation with Chuck to say, hey, is this working? Does this fit? And even though Chuck was in a mode of, hey, man, I'm just here to, be a part of the team, right? He's still our Steph Curry, right? If he's not hitting those threes, we're not the Campbell Brothers. So we still have to have him play an integral part and be on board with what we're doing. Otherwise, it doesn't work. And no, again, it was just, we went through, but we always questioned almost everything. But there were some things that just hit and there was nothing to say. You knew it was the right part, and that was done, right? And that was like the intro to Something Got a Hold of Me. When I played that lick, Carl was like, that's it. And Chuck liked it too. So that was done deal. So then there was nothing to discuss, right? Those kind of things.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And even in the production, you guys came up with those kind of things sporadically that just happened, and you kept it.
Yeah,
a lot of the album has that. A lot of the album has inspired moments. So on a song Love Light, that's Chuck's literal one and only take. As in, he came out like that shooter from from the Olympics. He ain't had no glasses. He just literally pulled up in his work uniform and went to shooting and got silver. That was Chuck. Love Light literally is Chuck's inspired take.
Yeah.
We were like, don't even touch it. All right, man, go sit down.
Just drop it. Yeah,
he literally dropped that.
Wow.
All right, man, go ahead. He literally dropped that and then went and took a nap on the couch. Like, yeah, you should go take a nap. You literally blazed that. And again, the thing that's funny is the song is actually longer. We had to chop it down because, man, it was too long because it was so much throwing going on between both of them. But yeah, that's that man's literal. All right, what's going on? Okay, cool, I got it. All right, break. And he went out and he came out 7 for 7 in the first quarter.
Wow.
So yeah, inspirational it's all throughout the record. And I think that's why you're getting that resemblance of, oh man, this is that era Chuck. Because again, sometimes you forget what you used to do because it's not being asked of you to do it sometimes.
Right.
And the man been playing, the man been playing my entire life, your entire life, Dante.
Right.
So he's played a bunch of stuff. Who's gonna remember your repertoire, right? But I think that's the fun part of being a fan of the guys playing is, hey, Unc, try this, or Dad called something from something that I've never heard, and that's how he ended up playing the solo for Something Got a Hold. I think like Golden Gate, something like that, like that quartet group.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So he called back
like
to that.
We're doing like the horn type things. That was Chuck. We're like, hey man, this is how we want to go.
Can you play a sample of that? Because that's another one of my favorites. That was another one of my favorites. You guys had some awesome singers on this particular album. The person that's singing lead vocals, can you all talk about him for a second on this particular track?
Well, on Something Got a Hold of Me, actually, that is Serena Young, and she was a contestant on Kirk Franklin's Sunday Best. Mm-hmm. So she's here out of Rochester. Fantastic praise and worship leader. Yes. And gets called to do those at different events and programs to do praise and worship. And a longtime friend of the family. So when we called her about, hey, would you join us on the record? She was like, of course. I don't know what took y'all so long to call me. So no, that was real cool. And the other person is Ron Staples of the Mighty Clouds of Joy. So he he does the lead off track of Changing Times, and then he does our quartet burner, Good News.
Yes.
And again, we met them when we were touring with the Mighty Clouds of Joy. And he loved our group and loved our sound when he first heard it. And this is back in the early 2000s when we played at the Hollywood Bowl with them, and then did a tour through California and Oregon and Washington. And so, yeah, he's always been a big fan. And so we call him up some 18 years later and get a hold of him, well, Facebook him. And he's like, yeah, man, let's do it. Send me the track. What y'all got?
So now the funny thing of this, the power of technology. So we recorded this during shutdown though.
Okay.
So again, this album started during COVID. So what ended up happening, we get a hold of Ron and we know that the world is shut down. So Dad and I kind of broke the law a little bit, and we drove. So we said, all right, Ron, here what we going to do. We're going to meet halfway between Milwaukee and Rochester, and we meet at we rent a room at a hotel in Ohio.
Wow.
I set up the baffles. I bring a rack of, I bring a single channel preamp, a compressor, a mic. And he drops those 2 tracks for us in a hotel room. That's 2020. Wow. That's technology.
That's
you don't have to be. That's where we're at. If you know what you're going for, you got the right tools. You can build your house
in a hotel room.
The right talent.
And about to say that talent. So that talent in front of that microphone, and that was in a hotel room. I don't even was a Best Western quality and something like that. We went for
wow.
Yeah.
But he must have dropped, he dropped probably 8 vocal tracks per song.
Yeah.
Because he did background vocals, he did some of the parts, and even though we replaced the parts in order to flesh out the ensemble, but he basically did all the background harmony parts, and then he came back and did the ad libs, and then he came back and did the main vocal. He did all of that. And again, we were there for 4 hours, and because we thought he was going to rent the hotel room and stay the night, he ended up being able to drive right back home that same day.
That same day.
So it was a day trip.
Yeah, it was a day trip. Sorry, Uncle Andrew Cuomo, but we were being safe. but yeah, man, you got to get it done, and that's the power of technology today. But again, bringing it back to this is a part of the lineage. A lot of those nuggets that we got from Charles Flannery and from Ricky Fowler, we were able to, again, all that deposit, and that helps birth right now. Right. So yeah, man, it's there's so many stories with songs like throughout this record of just trying to work even through COVID, trying to get this done. So no, man, it definitely was a blast, and we're hoping that you all can see and feel the love that we put into this.
Well, that's I think it's encouraging to hear that, and for a lot of the young musicians and even older musicians that are recording, and you don't feel like I don't have the right ingredients, I don't have the right people. Listen, with the technology that we have now, you can do and be wherever you want to be. you can have whoever you want to have, that right person on that project. And as they just showed us through technology and meeting somebody halfway across the country, you can make it happen. And you can make it happen in excellence. So that says a lot. I'm gonna switch, and I want to can we hear a little bit, Carl, of that quartet song?
Man, most certainly. I most certainly do.
Gonna sing a little song here, and it make me feel good. If you got pain and every day seems the same, let me tell you what I got. I got good news, my Lord. If you're sick and you don't know what to do, let me tell you what I got. I got good news. consumed. I'm so glad and I'm facing this by myself. But I look to the hills for where coming all my help. Yeah, if you got fire and you're worried about the virus, yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Let me tell you what I got.
Listen, that is another one of my favorite on the Innova CD. That track and so many others is just so profound. Marcus Randolph, who just joined us, he said, "What?" He said, "What? Wait a minute." He said, what album or what is this that we're talking about?" And let me show you, Marcus, what album that we're talking about here. This is a new album. This is a new album from the Campbell Brothers. Campbell Brothers, and the album is called Innova. The Campbell Brothers. You want to make sure you get it today. For those of you all that are just joining us, either on YouTube or on Facebook, you want to download, you want to purchase this album, you want to stream it. So much good stuff on here. Everything from praise and worship to quartet to just some nice ballads. Everything you want to hear is on this particular album. So you want to check this out today. You want to check this out today. As you were talking, go ahead, Phil.
No, I was just gonna say the beautiful thing about music today too is, again, if you're subscribed to an Apple Music or Spotify, Pandora, whatever, Prime, Amazon Prime, just download the album. You already paid for it.
Yes.
So that is easy as it gets, right? So you're not actually having to go out and buy albums today. You can actually just, as long as just tell your friends to go download the Campbell Brothers Innova, and that's all you have to do. Easy.
That's right.
That's all. That's all.
Easy breezy. Available
easy
on
button. All digital
downloads. That's right. All digital platforms.
No.
Well,
just go.
The other nice thing that's happening these days is I am really impressed with the musicians we have today. Although they get a bad rap, because I think sometimes the church system, or what's being sung in church and when we came up, it was full bore, toward the steel. But now you got so many, you got praise and worship, you got keyboards being introduced more, more people are. It's not the same. It's not as geared toward the steel as much, but I'm really grateful for the steel players today, because a lot of times they play some of the stuff that I used to play, and then they actually take it up a notch, and I really enjoy them playing. And I hear some things, and then they're able to go back and work on those things. So when you got Marcus and Kashaya and all these guys, man, they really played stuff that inspired me. And I think Phil and Carlton, they was really able to bring that stuff out. And I'm really, I can't believe how good these guys play today. Fat Man, all of them. I can't. They really. Even you, Dante. You.
Oh wow. That's funny.
Chuck.
No,
well, the real problem is Dante don't play steel that much. But again, but you still showed us who you were at the Sacred Steel.
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So we appreciated you, bro. Appreciated you big time.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I'm gonna let this sit here.
Actually, it was his wife.
Oh my goodness.
We carried him, man.
Man, listen, we had an amazing time.
Yeah, blessed, man.
And Chuck was definitely a rare form. And,
no comments.
And no comments.
No.
And all the guys are letting him have it, but Chuck was giving it back to him double fold, man.
Yeah, I done came down from that though, man.
But we had an amazing time. We really did. There's so many steel players, and you start calling names, you don't want to miss anybody. But I
Yeah.
do want to definitely highlight this comment from Roosevelt
My
Collier. He
guy,
said the record
Velt.
is blazing. Chuck
My
went to
God.
work on all I know. So
Yes, sir.
you're touching all of these guys, man, and whether you all you guys are touching us in ways that you don't even know, from your musicianship to who you are as men, to the production and everything musically and songwriting that you have on these projects. It's amazing. It's
Well,
amazing.
I'm glad he brought up All I Know, because that's the one I didn't like. But Phil the one went to work on that. That nylon guitar he did on that. Man, that was
beautiful.
When I heard the finished product, that was unbelievable, man.
It was. It is.
Yeah, that was something.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but that's the thing. Chuck didn't even want to play on the thing.
He
I'm
didn't
like,
want to play the
"Man, you
record.
have to play. What are you talking
He didn't want to play
about?"
on All I Know.
He didn't want to
Yeah,
play
he
on
didn't
it,
want to
man.
play. And I'm like, dude,
Like, man, if you
this
get
is
your mind over
Evo
here.
all day long. What are you? What are we doing here, man? So
the guitar sounded so great, man. It was just like the guitar part sounded so great. It was unbelievable, man. And so you got and we, I appreciate what you're saying about our album, but I'm really impressed with a bunch of Roosevelt, Deshaun, all these guys, man. AJ, you guys putting out some nice stuff, man. And really love what everybody is doing, and it's really inspiring. It's iron sharpening iron. It's really helping all of us,
No, we have to. Yeah, we have to. I think we have an obligation to be the best we can possibly be. And I think if we can set that example and set that standard, but we have a full expectation that guys are going to exceed whatever we do.
100%.
And at the end of the day, what that does, that raises the level of all of us, right? And so ultimately, what we really want is for, whenever people hear Sacred Steel, they think excellence. As far as musicianship, great musicianship that's tasteful, spiritual, anointed, soulful, that touches the heart and the soul. That's really what we want to have associated with Sacred Steel. And, again, I'm happy that we're engaging more with the House of God nowadays and with the musicians in the House of God, because as I said, and I've shared before, we really didn't get a chance to pour into this generation or these couple of generations of musicians the way we were poured into, the way Charles Flinty poured into us on the engineering and recording side, the way Calvin Cook, Ted Beard, Charles Flinty again, and all these musicians. And I start naming guys that you're like, you think about Larry Taylor on lead, Kenny,
come on.
Ellis on lead. You think about all these people who sat down and said, this is the way you should do it. This is how it should be done. Taught us these things, told us what we should be doing. Look, man, Larry Taylor was doing whole tone scales back in the early 80s, man, in church. I don't know how he was getting them in. But those are the kinds of things. But he told us, hey, man, this is what you should ascribe to or to be as a musician. And that's what those guys brought to us and poured into us. That idea, that spirit of striving for excellence, and then showing, not just telling us that, but then showing us the way to how to get there. And so I'm happy that we're back, re-engaged to be able to share some of the things that we've learned, and hopefully we can impart it. I mean, again, I don't want to be the old guy that said, "Get off my lawn." I don't want to be that guy. But if I can help people, hey, I'm all in for that.
Yeah, 100%. Which is
you're doing.
I'm sorry,
you're doing it.
Yes.
No, go ahead, Carl.
No, so like we kind of started on this yesterday. It was like, hey, man, you guys, we did this. Hey, everybody, we did this from our home studios, so we didn't have to go to a facility. And about being that bridge or pouring in. However, if you guys are working on projects or whatever, and you guys need some help or whatever, hey, man, reach out. This is how we sharpen and get the genre better, is by being able to pour and show and give guidance and some input and some critique that accept, because it's not coming from a place of hate, but it's coming from a place of realism, to, hey, let's
And
be
making
better
it
than what we can be and how we can be the best versions of ourselves, and to help pull the genre forward. Hey, I want to be a resource, so however I can help, if time is available and it lines up, hey, let's see how we can make this happen. Because again, if we're raising that bar and that standard, then hey, we're going to get more and more respect. More and more respect means more opportunities. More opportunities means a better viewing audience for Sacred Steel and the offshoots of that genre to come.
And our
that,
artists,
and that.
right?
And
That's
ours is
right.
correct.
And
That's
then
right.
ultimately, believe it or not, the church. I mean,
House of God,
again,
correct.
we still
Mhm.
people still come back and say, "Hey, man, hey, if I can go to church and get music like that, okay, now we're talking. If I can
Right.
get my soul uplifted like that, okay, now we're talking."
Mhm.
That's the kind of thing. And ultimately, but still in all, we still have to have churches to point them to. And that's where the idea of sharing and making sure that we have a bar of excellence across the board, so that when people come to our church or come to our service to experience the music in its true natural habitat, meaning in the services, right? They get that same kind of thing that they got at our concert. So
And
it all flows together.
Mhm.
And again, we're just
things
proud of our
like
heritage.
that's like what you've been doing and what you've been putting on YouTube.
Yeah.
What Del Grace is doing. The summit is off the hook with Al Lee. That summit is just remind me of Nashville in the choir room.
Come on.
Best.
Where everybody go at one another.
Man,
Some of the young guys don't remember. They don't remember those times.
They don't.
Boy, they would wear you out in that choir
Yeah,
room.
they would. Yes, they would.
man.
Talking about how you could have played better. You didn't play that good. You wasn't spiritual, But it was all we took it in love, and I think the summit is really achieving that. And also, when you go to the Del Grace concerts with the museum there in Toledo,
Yes.
you get the same kind of thing, and I'm really happy about that. One other thing I can say is that a lot of the steel players, a lot of us have played out with other artists that and multiple of us have played for the same artist.
Mm.
And I haven't gotten one bad review. They say we all bring it, and because the same rankings that you have in church, you don't have in the outside, in the outside world.
This is very true.
Yeah, I remember with the Slide Brothers, we showed up one time. It was Calvin, Derek, and I, and we didn't. Gent wasn't there,
Mm.
and a guy came up and said, "Hey man, I got a guitar for Gent to sign," and he said, "Gent's not here." Oh man, I'm out. Say, man, if Aubrey not here, I'm not even.
He didn't want to be a part of it.
Nothing to listen to, man.
Wow.
And
Wow.
you just have to realize that it's different. We got so many styles, and it's nuances to styles that people are really and that's another reason why I'm really happy for what Carlton and Phil did with this album, and guiding me to bring the best variations out of what I could do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it shows. And I have to say this too, because you guys covered this as well. When you look at all the tracks, and for those of you all that have not listened to it, track number 1, Changing Times. Number 2, Love Like Him. Number 3, Something Got a Hold. Track 4, Let's Heal. Love Light, Lift Every Voice. Soul in Motion, All I Know, Good News. You guys really talk about a lot of social issues in your songwriting in for the album, which really speaks to the times that we're in. It speaks to where we are even as a nation, as a world. Was that intentional, Phil, when you were doing a lot
Very
of your
much.
songwriting? Yeah.
Very much so. It doesn't make sense just to put out music. I think I think one, again, we as Christians, this is a real issue. This is a real issue for me personally. We are so duplicitous and hypocritical in our teaching and what we live and what we put forward that, again, I think we now are the biggest impediment to people coming to Christ and becoming saved or being believers, because again, they just see the hypocrisy and duplicity in the way we live and the way we do things. We have to be better. And so this record and many of these messages really are more towards us than so-called sinners, right? Because the interesting thing is the non-believers or sinners, whatever however we want to refer to them, they come to our concerts and they're uplifted. And they say, hey, I felt something. I feel better, right, after being here. But what they can't deal with is the politics of the church when they actually come to join up an organization or a church. That's become one of the great issues, right? And so I think if we start living what we preach and actually move forward and stand up when we see injustice, when we see racism, when we see inequality, when we see these things, I think that's a very important role for us to play. And then we're living out, because that's, again, if we claim to be like Jesus, then let's do it like he did it. Let's call it out and then let's live it.
That's right. I agree. And I think that's fundamental, that we have to be the life that we're preaching about and teaching about. So, man, and I think for those of you all, again, that have not heard the new album Innova, it's powerful. Again, we're talking awesome album from beginning to end. Sacred Steel, just the sound, production, everything that you want in a album, it's on here. And then, as we just stated, we're talking social issues. We're dealing with a lot of the injustices and all the things that are needed within our world. So here we are. We're not gonna keep you guys. Thank you all so much for just stopping in and having this conversation with us, and for everyone that is on YouTube, everyone that's on Facebook. Listen, it would behoove you to not have this on your playlist. Everybody should be rocking this. Tommy Phillips says he's on the road and he's bumping it right now. He's bumping it right now. That's what I'm talking about. So, and
I'd like to hear his personal review, because
Tommy
don't hold back.
Oh, he's gonna let us know.
He's gonna give it to you straight.
That's the beauty of our people, right? I love it. I love the fact that, hey, they don't have a problem letting us know whether or not it's working or not. I thank them for it.
Yes,
I thank them deeply.
And they're gonna let you know. They're gonna let you know.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Wouldn't have it any other way.
But between Tommy and Brian Josh
Taylor.
I can't wait to hear what they.
Wow. Well, listen, I already know. I already know that this is going to be a classic, and this is going to be one that I really hope you guys submitted it for a nod, for a Grammy nod, or for some of these awards to get the recognition that it really deserves. You guys put some work into this project, and as a child born into this music and this style of music, I'm proud of what I know that I've already learned from you all for years, and to sit and to be able to share with you guys. Even Footy in the Jewel Dominion, he said thanks for sharing. He's ecstatic about the new album and everything that you guys got going on, man. Listen,
Footy, I don't know. Footy don't play enough no more, man. I look over YouTube, all I see is 10 years ago. You need to play a little bit more.
You gotta listen, man. Footy has a single out and it's nice. You better go get it, Chuck.
Really?
Yes, he does.
Where can we get
it? I'll post it.
Yeah, man.
I'll post
it.
Yeah, post that, man.
I will.
Yeah, I'll even pay $1.50 for it if I have to.
It is blazing.
Whatever we need to do to support, man.
It is that. Yeah, he's still rocking. He's still rocking. But man, we appreciate you guys. taking out the time to be with us and um, if we just go around the room, and I'll start with Carl. If there's anything that you want people to walk away with, Carl, you did a lot of technical things. You did a lot of innovative things with this album. You brought the you were the there sometimes and we talk Phil was just talking about church, how sometimes there's a gap between the old and
Mm,
the young, and
mm.
merging that and being able to take what, okay, well, this is what we used to do, or this is what we're doing now, but now we're sitting and we're merging this thing together. And Carl, you were able to do that with your father and your uncle. How can you talk about that for a little bit before we go? And kudos to the technical work and the work putting together these songs.
No, thank you, thank you. Yeah, it for one, like I've been trying to make sure I make this point clear. I'm a fan of them, so yeah, I'm a family member, and I have very close proximity access. But I'm a fan of like everyone else, so I have church tapes just like you all have church tapes of them playing, and I
Mm,
still try to reference back to them because they are that influential and they are that skilled, and so it was my honor first and foremost to be able to take the helm to produce this record, and then not only that, to finish shaping the sonics as far as mixing it, because um again, we could have reached out to anyone, and I think them both having faith and trust and belief that I can execute the vision, hey, that I hope that goes without saying of, man, how I went back to that, almost felt like getting my first letter for Nashville. Like it was that it was literally that it was cementing, because hey man, it's different when, yeah, the world can salute you, but when your heroes give you credit for what you're
yeah.
doing and the work that you're putting in, hey, that means everything. And so to be able to take the techniques that Chuck employed when we did Sacred Steel on tour in 2000, 2001, when we were recording our live shows, and how he used the Tascam hard disk recorder, and how they worked on the Millennium Project, and then how we did our other records, and take those techniques and skills, and then to be able to apply a nugget that Charles Flannery always dropped was, if something feels too good, it's too loud.
Mm,
And that was tough because a lot of stuff on this record felt so good.
wow.
And
Wait, that, no,
it,
wait, you got to go back and give me that again. That's
yeah,
bars,
That's that's
straight
that's
up.
a Charles Flannery nugget. Hey man, when you're working on something, if it feels too good to you where you're sitting at or listening to it, it's too loud. And the reason
Wow.
why it's too loud, because you love it so much, you want more of it, which is why you're gonna turn it up. But you got to learn how to back it back. It's like making a meal. You can't put too much, seasoned salt on everything. Sometimes you got to
Right.
balance it out with some, with some onion powder, garlic powder, or some, sazon or something like that. You got to help break it up.
Right.
And those ingredients, when they're balanced and blend, hey man, it's chef's kiss. And so the thing that made this record easy is that these guys played great ingredients. It was easy to pull it all together. And even them allowing me to take some liberties as far as this actual production is also was great, because again, it definitely pushed us away from the quote unquote traditional Sacred Steel album. But that was the whole point of, hey, Sacred Steel is just more than just what we did for the Arhuli record age and days and age, right? The
Right.
music has evolved, and let's show the evolution of it and how we can take it even further, and where people will take it further. And so I hope this album is one of the linchpins in that cog that will allow people to be able to express themselves further. I know one album that's kind of started that is Instrument of Praise with Fat Man and Garvin McKinney. Their two projects definitely is definitely trending in that direction. And so we're seeing it. We're starting to see it. But for as far as for Campbell Brothers, that was definitely the aim, to allow a record that could be commercially accepted because it didn't feel quote unquote roots or like, live in church. There were songs that had messages, there were melodies that have intentionality, there were parts that were played because it's enhancing what's being done background wise as far as vocals, or there are vocal parts that are catching what an instrument may play, and all those interplays is what allowed this record across the board to, again, as the Dove shows, we're trying to come up out of from where we used to be to go to where we're trying to go. And so again, that was a great task. It was fun the whole time. It didn't feel like work. And that's a great feeling. To be honest, to honestly, to be able to capture these guys and to capture this part of history too, because these guys can still play. Yes. So we're not saying like we're trying to pull these guys out of retirement and dust them off. No, these guys are still incredible players, and I'm glad this record shows that, and our records to come will continue to show that.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, man, for your contribution to all of this and the production and just the technical stuff on it. Amazing.
Appreciate it, my guy. Thank you. Thank you.
Chuck, any parting words, anything that you want to add to this? Again, your sound incredible. The things that you've done on every single track, amazing.
Well, I think the band. I think it's great playing with the band and playing with Derek Bennett on the bass and Denise and all the guest musicians, along with Phil and Carlton. They're #1 great musicians.
Yeah.
So I get to play with them, which is an honor. And just thank God for everybody in Sacred Steel, Keith and Jewel Dominion, even the ones that we're gathering, like your student, who I was really shocked at how well he played. And I'm really, we're really blessed. And we ask you all, just pray for us that we will continue on and continue to do what
absolutely
has allowed us to do.
Well, man, we appreciate you, Chuck, and everybody's still singing your sentiments, man. You guys have been such a huge influences on all of our lives, and musically, as individuals, as just men, you've had great influence on us. So thank you, Phil.
Hey, well, first I want to dovetail into what Chuck said. Hey, you got to mention Derek Bennett. Somehow or another, I'm not sure how he got glossed over in the middle of all this, because that man dropped some bass on this album that truly did. And if you really want to hear it, go listen to Good News, what that man put down. When he started playing that, we looked over and we looked over like, what are you doing? So he killed it. And of course, Denise Brown, our vocalist as well, our regular new vocalist, she also did some Bringing Back Love Like Him, and on the tracks that she did too. So just want to make sure we acknowledge people, because it's easy somehow, but even though the subject matter kind of went away from the rest of the band, but they are very important in that sound.
Absolutely.
That we were able to bring
most certainly.
And then finally, hey, just want to say really thank you to you. The approval of folks like yourself and our Sacred Steel community means the world to us. It means so much. And so we just because you guys are our barometer, right? To make sure that we're keeping things and keeping it real and keeping it where it should be. And so you're a measuring stick for us. And so you serve that. And so again, if you all think it's the right thing, then hey, that means a lot that we're making it happen. And so just thank you all, man. And again, Dante, thank you for putting this together for us and making making us accessible to our people and our family, because quite frankly, that's what the HOG is for the most part, even though I know there's more people on than that. But again, these people are they're more family than some blood relatives I have, man. It's crazy how far back we go with a lot of these folks, and we just love them all.
Definitely. And we love you guys too. And before we end this, and I'm going to circle back on something you just said. Yes, Ron Staples definitely was. He did lead on Changing Times and Good News. Serena Young on Something Got a Hold and Let's Heal and Love Light and All I Know. And Carl Smith, who did backgrounds. Siobhan Campbell and Denise Brown, who did backgrounds as well, and your organist Rufus McGee. You want to talk a little bit about him?
Yeah, that's phenomenal. That's my Siobhan Campbell. That's my wife. Good job,
Okay.
anime. Good job, anime. Rufus,
Amazing background.
my bro for over 25 years, maybe 26. Phenomenal producer in his own right. He's done records currently with Ernest Pugh. He's done records with a guy by the name of Donnell Damon, who he was on America's Got Talent, I think it was, and he did pretty well as far as progressing through that. Phenomenal player, but a great guy as well. And again, just a little sprinkle, just a little sprinkle of that, just to help add another texture, man. And he jumped right in, and he opened up his facility to allow us to come to track his organ part at his spot, and that was definitely a blessing because it made it easier to get authentic organ. And it wasn't a VST. There's nothing wrong with that, but sometimes you need that grit and that growl that you can get from a 122 Leslie. You need that 122 Leslie screaming, and he definitely opened up on the tracks that he's featured on. So we appreciate that.
Yeah, and part of that too, bringing him on was, again, you all have heard me play MIDI guitar and do those kind of things. But again, we really want to go for authenticity on this album. Not that I can't do organ parts, but again, getting the real thing and getting a top player to go do it, again, just added to raising the bar, right, for this album.
Absolutely.
And so a big part of production.
And we can't go without mentioning Michelle and Joeva for being support system as well for you guys, as well as how's mom and dad, Bishop and Naomi?
Well, mom and dad are doing well. They're still living independently. My saying goes, when I go over there and they're still arguing, then I know they all right. So they still moving around and driving and all that. So God is good.
Yes.
We're celebrating Dad next week, next Saturday, in fact. House of God Church is coming in to honor him and appreciation. So yeah, mom just turned 90. Dad's going to be 89, and yet they're still able to move around. So God is good. As far as the wives go, Michelle heard these tracks.
Too many.
At least 648 times each.
Wow.
So yeah, because again, just from the mixing and all that stuff. So yeah, that's the unspoken part about this stuff of that the spouses hear these tracks until I don't even know if they want to hear the album anymore. Just because of all the mixing and everything that goes into it.
Right.
And our kids actually started running around. They were walking around, yeah, because they were hearing that changing time track so often.
Yeah.
So it became a tagline for them. So it's amazing how much, as you said, the support that goes into making a unseen support that makes these projects possible. And thank you for mentioning that, because you just gave us cover, brother. We've shown up.
I got you, bro.
You better know.
I got you. And so many people are just shouting us out. Choppy Anderson McCann. He's on here. He's watching. And listen, Chuck. Footy does have an album, so I'm gonna make sure I get the link from him.
Dope, Footy. Please do.
Yes,
sir. Yes, sir. Good stuff, Footy.
We want to make sure that he gets love on that. And Josh definitely he's listening to you, Chuck. He's listening. He's listening. Come on. So man, I appreciate you guys doing this.
Pause, Josh.
Say that again, Chuck.
Yeah, Josh tries to keep me sharp. He comes over, he'll come over and set up and play stuff that I can't play no more.
Keep challenging him, Josh.
But you know what? But see, again, this break goes back to the point. Mm-hmm. Josh Taylor played some arrangements for me, and had me, just try to put some things together. Man, it was beautiful, and it inspired actually some of the stuff that I'm working on. And again, I just bring it forward, man. Let the world hear this stuff.
Let the world hear it. And if you need help,
hear it, Josh.
reach out.
You heard it here.
You need help, reach out.
No, and that's what we're referring to when we talk about the incredible talent that's in our family and in our circle and community.
Yes.
that people don't know about. But man, I'm telling you, these players are fantastic, and we appreciate the love that they bring to the church services everywhere that they play. And they haven't been as enterprising as you do, Dante, to get paid for doing it, but they still come in and give of their heart and soul, and you just have to thank them for that, and thank God that they're dedicated in that way.
Yeah.
So again, just a shout out to all my fellow musicians, man, that are out there, that giving of their talent and their gifts, and uplifting the services out there, man.
And they loving you guys back. Alvin says Carlton Campbell is the dude. The Lee Boys is up next.
I know. I know y'all are.
I see you on. Hey, I ain't but a phone call away.
I know y'all are. Come on with it.
So, man, thank you guys so much for everything. This interview, and for those of you all that have not and do not know, this is the album. This is what you want to go get. This is what you want to go stream. This is where you want to be this weekend, all day Sunday. Listen, y'all need to rock this all day next week, all next month, for the rest of this year. Y'all need to be rocking this joint. This is a really, really dope album. And again, guys, thank you all for not only the interview, but the album is phenomenal. And just keep doing great things. Just keep doing great things.
You too.
Hey,
keep doing great things too.
Keep us in the prayers, and the album has been submitted to the Grammy, so we'll see what happens.
That's what's up.
The record label is doing their thing,
so we'll see what happens.
That's what's up. Thank you, Carl. Thank you, Chuck. I appreciate you guys. Thank you, Facebook and YouTube, for joining us. I'm gonna probably chat for a few more minutes with these guys, but thank you all for joining us, and thank you for being a part of history, of Black history.
Yes, sir.
Of Sacred Steel history, of the Campbell Brothers history, Innova. Go download, load it, stream it every day. This week, next week, all next month, for the rest of this year. You're gonna love it. You're gonna appreciate it. I appreciate you guys for joining in.